You said it is a very difficult decision to postpone the legislative election. Why is that?
Well, first of all, this Legislative Council election is a general election that is held once every 4 years. And we all know that whenever we have a general election of the Legislative Council, it's highly competitive. So a lot of people want to get into the Legislative Council. And of course, prior to our decision, we all know that Hong Kong has gone through a very difficult, highly politicized, and very polarized situation. So at this point in time, for the Chief Executive to take a decision to postpone the election will give rise to all sorts of speculations. But ultimately, nothing is more important than life, than the safety of Hong Kong people. So when the COVID-19 epidemic suddenly re-emerged from the first week in July, and then the situation deteriorated to such an extent that we got very worried whether we still have the conditions to conduct a fair and safe general election. And the conclusion is we could not run the risk. Although I did not have a crystal ball in front of me to foresee the situation on the 6th of September. But we all know that election is not just about the activities on the voting day. There would be a lot of electioneering activities which will gather crowds of people and so on and so on. So it was indeed a very difficult decision to make. But I have to say that this is the right decision to make.
And talking about speculations, you just said, specifically, I heard they say that you're using COVID-19 as an excuse because some are afraid of losing in the upcoming legislative election. How do you respond?
If the Chief Executive was so powerful to manipulate the situation of the epidemic, to create confirmed cases, to admit people into hospitals, and I have nothing to say. But that is simply unrealistic. We all have all these figures in front of us and all these fatalities. Before I made the decision, that is before the first week of July, Hong Kong has only 1,200 confirmed cases and less than 10 fatal cases. Now we have 4,500, and the number of deaths went up to 60-something. So isn't it a very severe situation that any government leader will have to address very seriously? So despite the inevitable speculations or even some overseas attacks on the administration and on myself, I think this is a responsible decision to make. And in fact, if one moves away from this bias and prejudice and try to look at what the rest of the world is doing, according to some international think tanks, the number of countries and territories that have their scheduled election postponed is more than the number of countries that continue with their scheduled election. Just quote a place which we're all very familiar, and that is the United Kingdom. As early as March, the United Kingdom has already decided to postpone all their local government elections as well as the London mayor and other mayor election by 1 year to May next year. So I think we are only doing what is right, just like what other governments are doing what is right for their people.